John.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for being with us. And thank you for being a customer of ours here at ColorTokens. And it's an exciting RSA conference, a lot of crazy things going on in the industry, so I'm interested to talk with you about that. But before we get into that, for the viewers, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role, and then we can go from there.
Thank you. It's wonderful, and thank you for the invite to RSA. I think there's a lot of good things happening here. I've been in the industry for over 20 years, led large network architecture implementations, did solution architecting, principal architecting, spent a couple of years, maybe 10, 12 years at Cisco before moving out to pursuing CISO roles. In my experience, I think the biggest challenge we have is that the current network infrastructures were designed with the 1990s mentality that makes it much more vulnerable to exploit and lateral movement. So as we go through the conversation, that's my main area of interest. How do I limit the blast radius and lateral movement of the attacker in the environment? ColorTokens as a customer, I think the ease of deployment of the technology, the ease of use and ease of support was one of the things that made architectures in my organizations more gravitate towards ColorTokens as opposed to other partners out there.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for saying that. We're happy to have you as a customer. I know you've had quite the journey with us for a few years. You've been with us. What would you say in terms of value that's been delivered through the solution? Has it delivered what you'd expect it to deliver? Has it given you some confidence in working with regulators or other governing bodies or executives?
I think the partnership is always good to kind of highlight that the partnership and the ColorTokens' willingness to work with us was a big deal. In terms of value delivery, I think the ISO deployment within our data centers, we are leveraging very highly in our data centers, application to server segmentation, up to user segmentation. I think we were able to respond and remediate some of the things which could have been very detrimental to our environment. So I think we received value. Also, the breach assessment, where you could do an analysis and report back to us in the OT environment, which was the next phase we were looking at moving forward, was compared to none. You're able to identify risks, quantify risks, and we are able to leverage that report to communicate what we are seeing as a bigger issue to the larger executive leadership.
Okay, got it. So it sounds like you leveraged that report to be able to do a business justification for why you wanted to expand out of not just the IT environment, but into the OT environment on a single platform. I mentioned a single platform. That's a bit of a marketing phrase, I suppose, but to me, what it represents, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is how valuable is it to you to be able to have that single pane of glass visibility across your IT and OT assets in terms of, lateral movement, and whether you can put an agent on it or not, whether you need to put an agent on or not, whether it is whether it's a device in a manufacturing facility or a system or a server or whatever.
It's big in the terms of training the support team. So if you think of it, OT networks in manufacturing spaces are segmented or disjointed from the rest of the networks. Many manufacturing companies grow through acquisitions. So you have industries in Asia, in Europe, in Australia, Asia, China, Africa, that may not have the same standardized technology as the headquarters in the U.S.
Right.
So you inherit this, and sometimes there isn't enough immediate budget to retrofit technology to most of these places. So therefore, if you are having to rely on 10, 20 different platforms, number one, is cost prohibitive. Number two, you have to train your SOC to support multiple things. And number three, there's a gap in visibility. I think the key thing in OT, as you move from IT to OT, and this is true of IT as well, that visibility alone is not enough.
Wow.
Having data sources, having logs to review in your SIM is good, but it tells you what has already happened.
Right.
What we're looking for, if we could have a predictive analysis that we could almost foretell, we think, given the current events we're seeing, there's going to be a potential for this failure, for this breach, for this exploit, then we can plan accordingly within the confines of one platform that's huge in the industry.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, boy, I heard a lot in there. So, one of the big themes you mentioned was, all right, being able to look at historical data,
Yes.
traffic that's occurred, and use that to inform what your policy decisions are going forward.
Yeah.
But I also heard a bit of a cost-saving story in there, or maybe cost containment is the right
Yeah.
is the right phrase in terms of when you go into one of these acquired entities, it's a challenge to be able to. You can't always afford to just buy a bunch of brand new gear. You
Yeah.
know? So the ability of our solution to be able to go into that environment as it is and create value and give you the visibility and some ability to control traffic
Yeah.
as it exists today without making major changes
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
valuable.
so architecting defensible and resilient OT and IT architecture during mergers and acquisition is always a challenge, because when you purchase an entity, there's a given driver,
Right.
there's synergies, there are cost savings, and many a times IT and OT becomes the afterthought of that. So a CISO or a CEO also struggle with, how do I use the same budget, the same resources I have, to make sure my environment is protected, or I'm having a defensive and probably a resilient infrastructure? Because in the OT space, availability is king. Availability and life safety, those two constructs are king. You want to make sure you're able to deliver, to produce your widget so you can go to market faster, but you also
Right.
want to make sure your employees are not put in harm, bodily harm or bodily danger. But one side of the coin that's missed, that as a breach can lead to two failures at the same time. If an OT environment is compromised, somebody can speed up the speed at which these things are running, can chop somebody's hand, remove all the safeguards. Somebody could, if you're working the boilers, you're making chemicals, somebody can increase the heat of that 10,000%, and all of a sudden create a bomb out of it. So I think I look at segmentation as a mechanism to contain both cyber risk and human safety risk in the event of an exploit.
Wow. Yeah. 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 That's a good thing to remember for all of us that live in data centers and cloud and all those cute little places. That when we get out into the manufacturing environments, it's cyber and it's physical and it's safety and it's security and it's protecting the business all at the same time. So it's pretty important. Wow. Okay. Thank you for that. What are your thoughts in terms of are there the future for color tokens and segmentation? Are there things in the future that you are planning for where this is relevant?
Yeah, I think that as artificial intelligence, and I think all of us have heard this a million times, and some people think it's vaporware, but I think there are some realities we have to contend with. Artificial intelligence has enabled the attackers to be able to have a high velocity of attack that we never seen before. At the defender side, and that's where I see ColorTokens is, how would ColorTokens leverage AI technology to ensure we are able to withstand the ferocity of this oncoming onslaught of attacks? Number two, how do we begin to develop policies, standards, processes around this that's much more faster, seamless? And if you think of things like passwordless authentication, which I think is something ColorTokens is very interested in, and I think very known for one of the approaches we're taking, in manufacturing space, having users to authenticate and re-authenticate takes away their time to productivity. So therefore, how do we enable you log in, you're protected, but you don't need to authenticate? So I think looking at the future of all that in a secure and protected environment is going to be significant improvement for all manufacturing facilities globally in every industry, healthcare, apparel, tire. That's what why it is, because there is a need to be enabled employees to work faster, do their things better. But every time they log off a profile, it stops that process which was running to
Right.
stop and then do another one again. But
Right.
we also don't want them to be writing their passwords and sticking them
Yeah.
on their machinery. So when you walk on the floor, you know, password 123, 2345, something there's going to be, I'm looking at opportunity where you can leverage segmentation, micro segmentation in the OT environment. Don't impact OT productivity, enable the capabilities, and enable the frontline employees to do their work without worrying about security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way you've got to do it.
Yeah.
That's it. All right, folks. I think that's time for us. Thank you, John, Mr. John Opala from HanesBrands. Thank you for your time once again. We appreciate you taking the time out here at RSA. We're signing off for now, and
Thank
have a
you.
great day.
Thank you so much. That was very good. Appreciate it.